Yeah, hey now, good morning, PSW staff, clients, friends, joining us for Film Scoring Monday, where we look at a scene, mostly iconic movies I like to choose because it's good to see. It's a little bit of film history too in these classes, but might as well look at the film scores too. And we've been doing a great job. You guys have been doing a great job with Big Night. Last week was so much fun to look at that cool car scene. And we got to pick a song finally, and some of them had lyrics too. So I'm getting a little easy now, because you can, although this time you can't. But I like to change it up. So please, if you're new, talk to me, text me, email me. If you want to start joining in on these, this is more music supervision. It's not original music, not yet. That's maybe in the works. But you guys listen to music all day, so you might as well play along because. It's kind of like a game. It's a weekly exercise. So thanks for, letting me do this. I love seeing your guys' work. So having said that, I like that because that negates everything. But we are going to be looking at a very famous movie from 1939. Scandalous, controversial, but that's how we like to do it in these classes. We're going to take a look at the romantic, sentimental, epic Gone with the Wind. Gone with the Wind, highest grossing movie of all time. Still, one of the first in color, right? Comes out the same year as The Wizard of Oz, which we already looked at and scored. That was one of our early assignments. 1939 was a big year. Wizard of Oz comes out August. This comes out Christmas. And this kind of sweeps everything. Although, it went through 3 directors, and Victor Fleming directed Wizard of Oz. He was also brought in to direct this, so it was a busy year for him too. David O. Selznick was the guy, the head honcho over at MGM. Of course, the O was just added for upperclassmen, or something pretentious. That was, he didn't have an O, but he needed that. Louis B. Mayer. It makes this. There's self-importance is very important in this business. So it's about 4 hours long, and we're going to watch all 4 hours right now. So just kidding, we're going to look at a very famous scene, and it's a beautiful scene. So it's an epic Civil War drama, right? Focuses around Scarlett O'Hara, the beautiful Vivien Leigh. She's about 25 years old when she's in this, and about her family and what she, lost throughout the Civil War, being on the plantation, her relationships with men, marriages with men, a lot of brutality, a lot of racism, rape, a lot of things that have, gone on. So based on a book by Margaret Mitchell, and only published 1 novel in her lifetime. Comes out in 1936, the book. So by 39, it's released. But production starts like 1937. It was a long, long production. Just having 3 directors is kind of crazy. So the story kind of centers about the changes that took place in the South during the Civil War, 1860s, and Reconstructionism, and all of those kind of things. And also with Clark Gable, who's Rhett Butler, right? Probably a much, much better charismatic person rather than Marlon Brando. When we get to the 50s, that's, with not real acting, but there's certain people that have such charm and charisma, like Clark Gable, like Cary Grant. They're not the best actors, but they're the actors you really want to see a lot of times. It's got 10 Academy Awards. This swept the 12th Academy Awards because, as we know, we looked at last week, first one was 1929. So Academy Awards, and another big thing is Hattie McDaniel wins, right? First black person to get an Academy Award. And we looked at that when we did the Ambassador class, the Ambassador Hotel, because the Coconut Grove, the Academy Awards were there. And, there's been a lot of debate about canceling this. And I always like to mention this because it seems like as we progress with the world, sometimes we regress, and we're not for censorship of anything. Now, there's probably uncomfortable depictions one could find by watching this movie. You know, HBO Max had a whole scandal about, you know, do we take it away? Do we just not put it because it's offensive? And all of these questions are good to ask. But once we take things away, like we've talked about, then we repeat them again. So we need them for context. And we need to also look at things that, is it only a racist movie, or does it have other things to offer? And those are the other things that we are looking at that offers. You're saying what? I mean, what about Scarlett's character as an independent woman? That's portrayed very, very well here with Vivien Leigh. So there's multiple aspects to works of art, and works of art shouldn't ever be censored, and they should be looked at in its contextual form. And that's different than you know, our own civil liberties and civil rights. Music by Max Steiner. We looked at Max Steiner. We've scored King Kong. I like that we can say that now. 1933, King Kong comes out. This is, of course, a few years later. He was very busy this year, Max Steiner, and he only had 3 months to compose the music. He had a lot of people helping him, the orchestrators and all of those things. But supposedly in that year, he wrote 12 film scores. So he spent weeks just writing sketches. We know Steiner. He's very important because he used click tracks, which is what studios use today to sync sound, picture, all of these things. He was one of the early people that said, you know, we're going to need a click track. Also, leitmotifs. He's one of the first kind of film composers, in a sense, to have an original score for a movie. We talked about this. Back before this, it was kind of like films weren't, you know, I mean, the films barely had a story. I mean, not really, but I mean, a little bit. It wasn't, certainly music was not an important aspect of filmmaking. It was, you know, story, actors, and then background music. But then then you had in the 30s story, actors, epic score, or big score as a component to, well, somebody could say, well, I hated the movie, but the score was an original score and that was great, or, you know, vice versa. So where does that come from? A lot of leitmotifs in his music. We looked at that. That goes back to Wagner. But of course, Steiner was a prodigy. I mean, his godfather was Richard Strauss. We looked at Richard Strauss. He studied with Mahler. You know, those are pretty good people to study with. So of course, this score is going to sound like a classical score, but also, you know, melodic, very melodic. So the scene we're going to look at is right before the intermission, because, you know, it's 4 hours. So, and it's a gorgeous scene. This is when Scarlett's lost everything. So she starts as this privileged, rich, you know, lady, and loses it all because of the Civil War and all these terrible things happening on the plantation and everything. And so she's at her wit's end. And so that's kind of, and this is what she says. So we're just going to back it up in a little bit. And so this is right in the middle of the movie, which is a good cliffhanger because you're not sure what's Scarlett, what's going to happen to her.
As God is my witness. As God is my witness, they're not going to lick me. I'm going to live through this, and when it's all over, I'll never be hungry again. No, nor any of my folk. If I have to lie, steal, cheat, or kill, as God is my witness, I'll never be hungry again.
I mean, how gorgeous is this scene, though? Just the panning, the pulling back of the camera, the silhouette. I mean, it must have been unbelievable to see this in color. You know, one of the first films in color, to be in the theater. I mean, this was just, it's such a, and the score is so beautiful. Now, we looked at, like I was talking about, Steiner was almost of the school of classical composers, because we're getting into 20th century modern music, but Steiner's kind of left over from the Romantic period because he's been around. So he's right in that transition along with other composers. He's not the only one. Korngold, where they came from the classical school, but now they're getting into motion pictures. So they're going to use their education, their background, all their training but also write for the pictures. And for the pictures, especially for these pictures, you can't be too abstract. You need to be somewhat melodic, just like the stories can't be too abstract. I mean, you have to give people a little bit of something to hold on to, something to remember. So story, just like melody, is something that, that's that's also all about money too. We looked at John Sibelius, maybe the most famous Finnish composer, or maybe the only Finnish composer, I don't know. But listen to it. I have to do this because this reminds me so much of the Gone with the Wind score. This is Sibelius' Symphony No. 6 that we listened to when we talked about him. Is it me, or do you hear some similarities with Steiner? Listen to Steiner's score. Definitely similarities, huh? I mean, perhaps it's just me, but I needed to point that out because I knew that we would talk about this movie, and I'm glad that we have Sibelius under our belt, that you guys understand where I'm coming from. So, okay, so let's look at it with just farm animal sounds. What do you think? No lyrics, not a jazz score. I would say somewhat classical, somewhat orchestral for sure. I mean, unless you make a good case for, no, I don't hear a big score. I hear something very small sounding, but it should be sentimental or epic. Not epic sound-wise, but it's something important. It's a really important scene that leaves you in the middle of the movie. So it should be somewhat grabbing your attention. And it could be in a subtle way. That's okay too. So have fun with it, and let me know what you think about it, and get it to me by tomorrow. And just see. I mean, it's a beautiful scene on the hill, and Scarlett's at her wit's end, as God is my witness. And so it's a really powerful scene. So see what kind of score you can come up with to choose, and we're gonna make it a great week. We're just gonna. Anyone can have it. We're going to make it a great week. So, love you guys. Thanks for watching. I'll be here tomorrow. Okay, bye.